I found out today there are almost 900 of these recordings, the videos on Facebook and on YouTube. I mean, it's like a library of Kundalini yoga. I mean, if you ever need to do any reference work, you just go there. I mean, somebody told me today there's almost 900 of them that have been. To me, that's incredible. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? You know, it might be a little perplexing when I talk about being in the now, because it's probably one of the most singly difficult things to do, to get your mind focused, to get your heart open, and it's something that has to be worked at every day, to build a system inside over time that enables a human being to do this, that they can truly live in the present. It takes a very powerful inner life. It's something none of us have. We need to develop it. I certainly didn't have this 30 years ago. It's something over time that was developed, and a strength to be able to recognize this as such an important element of any kind of spiritual growth. But if you get yourself into a dither about, well, how can I do this? It takes time. You know, it takes 12 years to become a doctor, to learn the craft, to learn what you're doing, to know how to perform surgery, to do all those kind of things. And without the education, you know, a doctor is very dangerous. And this is the same thing. It takes time to build that kind of inner life to where the sacred moment becomes part of one's experience. It's not a mental thing. It's not an analytical thing. It's not something you can figure out. It is something that you simply live. It just becomes organic to your chemistry to be able to live that way. And then whatever you do becomes sacred. Whatever you do becomes, you know, a gift of God. It means the heart has to be open. There has to be joy in us. There has to be love in us. There has to be forgiveness in us, compassion in us as we interact with other people. And we're not better than anybody else, you know, because everybody has something to teach us. And you don't learn from anybody, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the ugly, you know. You don't learn anything if you, in your brain, you know, are imperious, you know, if you're, you got to be able to listen to life and let life be this extraordinary teacher. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? And nobody has to be perfect. You know, perfection is in, you know, I mean, God is perfect. You know, and people that are a little bit crazy are also in their brains perfect. You know, they are totally right about everything. And they're very difficult people to spend time around. Imperfection and accepting imperfection is a fast path to spiritual enlightenment, because then there has to be humility, there has to be deference to life and the sacred nature of life as a teacher. We have to be able to listen to life and listen to other people. And it frees us of this I would say, insecurity in ourselves, that where we have to be perfect in everything we do. And we usually don't accomplish anything because of that need to be perfect, you know? Best to just make mistakes and learn from them. And then things can grow. And we get juicier inside, you know, less rigid, less dogmatic about the way we live. Does anyone have a question? Somebody ask a question. I have a question. Why are there no questions?
Stuart, I have a question, Bob Sink.
Thank you, Bob.
Where does the need for perfection as a human being, where is that arising from?
You know, the answer to that is very subtle, Bob. The need for perfection in human beings stems from, you know, a need to be spiritually enlightened, to become one with higher energy in the universe, one with the ultimate perfection in the universe. But it's not something the mind can accomplish. And most people in their brains try to be perfect. And they not only drive everybody around them crazy, but they drive themselves crazy. So the need for perfection is a need to grow inside. And then it comes with a certain kind of humility, the realization, you know, that as long as we're alive on this earth, there'll always be something for us to have to do to continue the growth process. We will never attain perfection, but then that's the adventure, the continuance of inner growth, that there's no end to wisdom, there's no end to knowledge. And we can absorb as much of it as we are ready to absorb at any given moment. And once we absorb that, there's always a higher level of consciousness. And that keeps us growing. And in order to attain this higher level of consciousness, we have to become like nothing inside ourselves. We can't be full of our ego and our ideas of right and wrong and who we are and what we are and our charisma and our place on the earth and all this stuff that people just drive everybody else crazy with, you know? We have to have deference. We have to have humility, because no matter how much we grow, it's like a grain of sand on a beach. But then that's the extraordinary thing about growing. There is never an end to the amount of knowledge and the amount of wisdom that one can absorb in their system. The end comes when we think we're right, then it stops. But as long as we just kind of bow to the universe and open and let it teach us, the wisdom, the knowledge is without limitation. But we need to get less and less full of ourselves, full of all that bullshit that goes on inside people, to allow that wisdom, that knowledge to truly nurture us inside and help us to get closer to spiritual enlightenment. I think that's where the need for to be perfect comes from. And people substitute being right, knowing better than everybody else. You know, and that's all ego, that's all insecurity. Anyone who has to know better than everyone else is a very insecure person. They can't let anybody breathe around them. Somebody who listens, learns, somebody says, I'm wrong, teach me. Teach me something I need to learn about growing in my life. There's a lot of security in that. I think going into the new year, we should approach it this way. We're going to listen. Let life teach us. Let all of the people, as I always tell all of you, your presence here is enabling me to develop a chakra system that allows me to have a spiritual life. The demands of this class, working to nurture people, to not know better than anybody, but to just surrender so deeply inside that the spiritual energy flows through. And that's what creates these classes, not Stuart. Stuart has training so he can build a system inside that allows that energy to flow. And your need to grow spiritually, I have to listen to that. Otherwise, these classes are not going to work. I can't come here thinking I know better than everybody else. I have to come here to open and learn from everybody that's here. And also, I have to surrender in such depth in myself that allows the spiritual force to flow through and the Shakti to nurture everyone that attends these classes. And myself. So I think the need to be perfect is, the underlying need to be perfect is truly a need to become one with God. And that kind of perfection can only be attained by a person surrendering so deeply inside themselves, that they really become in a state of nothingness. And that nothingness allows spiritual energy to flow through each and every one of us and guide our lives. And guide our lives. Let us work out our karma. Let us learn how to be loving, happy, wonderful human beings, that can nurture other people and have compassion for the sufferings that go on inside people and in this world. Let's bring all this into the new year. I'll tell you, if we all do that, these classes are going to be 3 times stronger. It's going to be really something. But that's the goal. The goal isn't to become right, perfect. The goal is to become nothing and a child of God. And as I say in one of my little tantricas, a cup of tea has as much value as a painted masterpiece. It's a jewel. It's sacred. I mean, that's the underlying meaning of Japanese tea ceremonies. The service is sacred. The tea is sacred. And the way you serve it with the deference and the humility and the love that you're offering somebody by giving them a cup of tea. Does anyone else have a question? Thank you, and God bless you all. Have a very healthy, happy, wonderful new year. And let's go into the new year and embrace this deference to life, this extraordinary thing that each and every one of us has been given called life. And it's so precious and it's so sacred. And the time we're given on this planet is also sacred and has to be used to develop ourselves as human beings and people having a spiritual life and people being able to have compassion for other human beings in this world. So God bless you all. Thank you for being in my life. And the meditation tomorrow evening, New Year's Day, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful year.
Thank you, Stuart.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good.